Hey, what's going on, everyone? How you doing? I hope you're doing well. Gonna be reviewing Dragon Age the Veilguard because I completed it. I finished it. I said I wasn't gonna play it. I was not going to buy this game. But then I said at the end of my video, when I was talking about Dragon Age the Veilguard and how disappointed I am with everything that I've seen, I said the only way I would play it is if somebody gifted the game to me, and then I would reluctantly play through it and then tell you my thoughts. And to be honest, I didn't think anybody was going to gift it to me because I had no reason to think that. I wasn't being totally serious because nobody's ever gifted a game to me in my, with my career online, with its entirety. And so, somebody was like, "Here you go, sorry." And I was like, I'm a man of my word, let's see if it's as bad as I thought it would be. And guess what, ladies and gentlemen, it's much worse than I could have imagined. Right now, I knew that I wasn't going to enjoy it because of everything that I've seen already. But now thoroughly playing through it and clocking a significant amount of hours into the game because I wanted to thoroughly play everything and see what was redeeming. If there was anything, maybe I would be pleasantly surprised with some stuff. Maybe there would be more returning characters from the old series or something. Like there would be something more that would actually really pull me in and then make me think, whoa, this is actually way better than I thought. And maybe some of the people that were saying Dragon Age is back, maybe they had a point. Nope, they didn't have a point in any way, shape, or form. This is not a Dragon Age game. It's only a Dragon Age game in name, and that there's a few characters that you would recognize if you played the old ones. But even that is so shallow. Everything about this game is so shallow. And to the point where I was so almost in denial with how bad it was. But I truly understood when I moved on to another game, because right now I'm going through my Steam library and playing things A through Z. And right now I'm in F, so I've had Far Cry 5 for a long time, but I'm finally getting to it. And I gotta tell you, I've been waking up, doing what I gotta do, and being excited to go play Far Cry 5. And I'm thinking, is with Veilguard so bad that it's making Far Cry 5 that much better? Or is it just like making me at least remember that, oh yeah, I used to be excited to play video games and I was not excited to play Veilguard. I was going to sleep earlier than I normally would go because I'm like, I guess I've had enough. And now I'm playing Far Cry 5 and going to bed at like 5 in the morning because I'm having a blast in this game. So it's a really good game, by the way, but I'm just saying that like it truly hit me that I'm like, I really did not like playing this game. There was no bias or anything. It was just a chore. Like it was probably like 95% a chore, and then there maybe 5% of some things that were kind of cool about the game. Now, before I get into absolutely trashing the game, I do want to highlight a couple of things that I did like about the game. So the Veilguard had a couple of things going for it, and mostly it was just the environment, right? The lighting, the texture of the environments were beautiful. Absolutely gorgeous. I mean, I was actually blown away with some of the things that I saw. I was like, wow, this looks so much better than I thought. And it ran so smooth. Highest settings on my 3060, and it ran like a dream. Hardly any bugs. So, like, it was optimized beautifully. They actually took the time to optimize the game, and it looked gorgeous. The lighting was absolutely fantastic. I love that, to where it was one of those things to where I played Black Myth Wukong, and at the time I had a 4070, and it looked beautiful, but I was kind of surprised that this game looked better to me, and some of the environments, some of the art style of the environments were much better than I thought. Like, say, being in Tevinter was pretty cool. Looked kind of different from anything that you've seen in any Dragon Age games before, but I kind of like that because it made sense. Like the Tevinter Imperium, or just like this crazy, like, imperialistic magic blood mage driven society, right? That it kind of makes sense that it's a little bit different because they're kind of on another level with magic than other states, and other countries in Thetis. So I thought, I was like, yeah, that's cool, I'm cool with this. And so I appreciated that. And the combat, I gotta say that the combat was actually pretty fun. Like, I love a lot of action adventure stuff, so I thought the combat was actually pretty satisfying. I saw a lot of people say that they got bored with it pretty quickly, but I don't know. I'm not sure exactly what they were looking for, or it might be one of the problems that everything is repetitive in every video game, but you only notice it when you're not having fun. So I think that's kind of an issue where there was a lot of people that just weren't having fun with the game. They were having fun with Dragon Age the Veilguard, so they noticed how repetitive the combat is, where in every game you play, it's just going to be repetitive. It can't not, even when you progress, and because this combat system has progression. It does have progression, and it has like, oh, once you hit level 20, other things unlock. And so now you have even more abilities. And so there is a decent combat system. And the only other thing is just some of the characters were written well, but I gotta say, that's what makes this much more frustrating. Like, say, Solus is written pretty well throughout the game. When Solus is on screen, when he's talking, he's delivering his lines, I'm like, yep, that's Solus. I believe him. I see the passion all the way through. Harding felt pretty decent. Harding, like, you didn't get to spend a ton of time with her in Inquisition, but you know, when you would show up to a new area, you would talk to her because she was the scout, and then she would give you a bunch of information and stuff like that. You could flirt with her a little bit, but she didn't really reciprocate or anything like that. So, but it was cool, like, having her be fully fleshed out. But I'll talk more about the characters later too. So what makes Dragon Age the Veilguard so terrible? Well, when it comes to an RPG, especially when it comes to BioWare, the two main things that people focus on is the story and its characters, right? The companions in BioWare games are usually fully fleshed out, completely believable within the universe that it's set in, and the story is very compelling. It's one of those things to where there's these huge decisions. There's a lot of things going on that there will be huge forums just filled with a bunch of people discussing the choices and stuff, and there just wasn't that overall in the Veilguard. The things that you expected from a BioWare game were just not there. Probably one of the most jarring things within this game, and everybody talked about this, so everybody knows about this already that's interested in the Veilguard or interested in knowing anything about it, is the character textures. You must have seen how weird some of these people look. Like, they just look weird, like oil paintings, like smooth or blocky, like they don't even belong in this universe at all. Like, there's a guy that you fight, there's this mage dude, and I'm like, what the hell? What is going on with this guy? Why does he look like this? He literally looks like he's in Shrek. I know that joke has been made before, but I thought it was funny, and I thought it wasn't, you know, they were being completely serious. But when I saw this guy, I was like, this is a Shrek character. This is a DreamWorks CGI. What the hell is going on? Like, the most jarring thing about it is the inconsistency. Like, if they all looked like Shrek, at least it would be less jarring. But it's one of those things to where when you're creating your character Rook, there are textures, there are some skin complexions that look pretty decent. But then there's also ones that make you look stupid as hell like any of the other people in the game. And it's like, what is this inconsistency? Why is there so many code in here that'll make the characters look so stupid to being kind of decent? Like, the best you can do is make a character that looks like they belong in NBA 2K. And the NBA 2K create a character is not too bad. And it fits that universe fine. One thing that I've always liked about 2K is that they nailed the hair. They did hair pretty well, which a lot of games always struggle to do hair. It's a difficult thing to code. But the Veilguard at least figured out the hair, and it looks like they got some help maybe from the 2K mechanics because it looks like 2K. Because if you play any of the recent 2K games where like the hair was pretty decent, I was like, wow, this looks pretty good. Like, I'm pretty impressed by that. And that's about it in a 2K game because it's predatory and that shit sucks ass. You know, we all saw the writing on the wall with certain things that happen that, hey, this game for a long time was called Dragon Age Dreadwolf. And then once it got changed to the Veilguard, it was kind of like, uh-oh, something's wrong here. Their explanation being, oh, we're going to focus on your companions. And I'm like, well, that's supposed to be a BioWare game. So that worries me because that is already a main focus. The companions are going to be a large part of the game. So why does the name need to reflect that? That's weird. I don't like that explanation. And then it turns out Solus isn't in the game nearly as much. It was like, uh-oh. But the reveal trailer really was telling, just kind of the vibes of everything. And then one thing in particular that really bothered me, something that just made no sense to me at all, is Varric. why is his hair brown? I was looking up forums. I was looking on Reddit and stuff and seeing people, just the dumbest people on planet Earth, saying things like, well, he's aging. Oh, I didn't know that when you age, your strawberry blonde hair just turns brown. I thought you start graying. I thought that's what aging is. Like, I was like, what the hell is this? Why is this like this? I took the liberty to just mod his hair blonde again. And guess what? He still has a little bit of gray in his hair because he's aging. Little things like that. Decisions like that. When Varric is a strawberry blonde, gingery dwarf, and then just not making him that. When someone just modded it like that so easily. Decisions like that are like, oh, this game's gonna be terrible. It's one of those things that just seeing just those little things, those little changes, the Veilguard, from Dreadwolf, the hair, and then the textures in the reveal trailer, you're like, oh, this is gonna be a disaster. And I bring up Varric's hair because it's something that is so baffling to me that I'm like, how did we get here? That seems like such an easy thing to just knock out of the park, just making him look how he's supposed to look. But it just shows you what happens, in my opinion, when artists take the liberty and do what they want to do and not do what they should do. So since the characters are the most important part of a Bioware RPG, just pretty much, I think, just etches out the story. Because if you think about it, even in Mass Effect, people love Mass Effect so much. People say the best one is Mass Effect 2. The story is meh, really. Oh, here's this stupid race called the Collectors. They abducting humans. They're abducting stuff. We gotta go figure it out. Pretty much the entirety of the game, the vast majority of the game, is doing loyalty missions, collecting your companions, and then doing their loyalty missions. And it's fantastic. It's amazing. So really, in a Bioware game, a lot of times people are just like, I just want to spend time with dope ass characters and have some cool ass love interest, right? We want to romance some people. And in the Veilguard, holy crap, man. The one thing that I've always said, the big difference between a Mass Effect, the Mass Effect franchise and the Dragon Age franchise, is that they just did such a poor job bringing back returning characters. And there was not enough in Inquisition. There was not enough in the Veilguard. And I feel like in the Veilguard specifically, they had 10 years. This is something that they really should have focused on, especially since they were saying this is the crescendo. This is it. This is it. It's over. There's not going to be any DLC. Not like I want any DLC, but they're not furthering this thing. This arc is over. If they ever make a Dragon Age game, it'll probably be a complete reboot or something like that, which I'm actually fine with because they butchered this so badly, as I don't want them to continue the story. But the thing is, something I could have taken solace in is if they at least brought back a lot of returning characters, because you made a lot of relationships, right, and friendships throughout the series. And one thing that Mass Effect did so well is carrying those relationships over. Even if they weren't on your team, like say Mass Effect 3, you pretty much got to hang out with everyone as long as they were alive. Spoilers, I guess. But like, you got to hang at a certain point, you got to see everyone, hang out with everyone, finish some people's story arcs. Like you did, they just tied it together so amazingly. The payoff, a lot of people were mad at the ending of Mass Effect 3, but to me, I'm like, my guy, like, I'm sorry, the AI doing and destroying. It's been done to death. The AI destroying civilization. I get it. My payoff was just I wanted story arcs fulfilled, and I like the Citadel DLC part 1 and 2 was like the real ending in my opinion. So like I had a good time with it, and Dragon Age is so far from that. Even Inquisition, I enjoyed Inquisition for what it is. It's plagued with some issues, but even the new people that they added, I was like, hey, these are some good companions. I actually really like these people. I hope I see a lot of them in Veilguard. You see almost none of them. You see almost none of the people that you brought back. So Morgan comes back. All right, we saw that in the second trailer or whatever. They're like, okay, at least she's gonna be back because she's been important, probably one of the most important characters throughout the series. So yeah, it makes sense that she's gonna come back. It makes total sense. Some other very major players just did not show up at all. No, nothing. Like Cassandra was a huge player in number 2 in Inquisition, just not back. Okay. In Inquisition, if you chose Hawk to stay alive, I would imagine Hawk should be there in the Veilguard. Hawk helps you out in Inquisition with something that's pretty important. And then Hawk's just nowhere to be found this time. You're the hero of Ferelden, your Grey Warden in Dragon Age Origins, leaves a letter in Inquisition. And I'm like, that's stupid. This is a huge deal. Dude should be there. And then I was like, okay, maybe they're gonna come through, and maybe he's gonna be there. Maybe your Grey Warden, the hero of Ferelden, is gonna be there in the Veilguard. No. Oh, but they did bring back the Inquisitor. They even brought back the voice actors. Cool. You see them 3 times. One time I was like, okay, that interaction was okay. You gave me something interesting. The second time, you guys are just essentially having coffee. So how are things going? All right, cool. Bye. I was like, what is this? And then towards the end of the game, make another appearance. And I'm like, okay. What was so frustrating about that specifically is that why did I have to be this new character, this faceless character, Rook? Why couldn't I just continue as the Inquisitor? You brought back the voice actors. It's not even a logistical problem. It was just a choice. A stupid choice, because Rook, the character that you control, sucks. Rook is so flat and one-dimensional. You can't even really be something with Rook. Rook is just a chill person the entire time. Every once in a while, Rook will say something a little bit like dickish, but not really like, oh, he's an asshole. Like, that's the biggest thing. Dude, in Inquisition, basically in all the games, you can be a dickhead, right? In Inquisition, you could be a dickhead.
It was insanity to let you live after what happened. I was just about to do that myself. The Inquisition will be a force to rival any in Thedas. In my name. If you have a problem, say it. I don't have time for your feelings.
You can't do anything like that. And I'm just like, what the hell's going on? I really wanted some more returning characters. The nostalgia would have been really nice. It was like there was a moment when you get to speak to Harding, and Harding starts to reminisce about the Inquisition. And she even starts making fun of one of the old characters, Cole. And I laughed. I was like, that was cool. That was like, honestly, the best part of the game. How sad is that? That them just kind of doing a little bit of an homage to that these people existed, at least. And even having Harding mimic Cole was actually really cool.
His eyes remind her of the ones beneath her bed.
But you know what would have been even cooler? If Cole fucking showed up. You know what would have been cool? If Josephine showed up. If Liliana showed up. If a lot of people, if they just showed up. I mean, you had, let's see, so it was Morgan, Harding, Dorian. Dorian seems so... If you didn't play Veilguard, you'd have no idea that he was kind of important. You'd have no idea that he was truly on your team. Not really. So it was one of those things where I'm like, this is it. And then it sucks that those characters didn't get to interact truly with the Inquisitor. Like, people, like, you see the problem with that? Like, they got this character Rook here, this new character that doesn't mean anything. And then so it's like, I guess there's no point to bring back older characters or bring back a bunch of them because the interactions aren't going to mean anything. Just like when you run into Dorian, it means nothing. It doesn't even feel good. It's like, oh, hey, Dorian. First of all, Dorian looks stupid. I'm like, I was like, what the hell's going on with this guy? And then you just don't even get a feel for how Dorian truly is. Maybe a little bit later in the game, where because he has the potential to become the Tevinter Archon, but like, it just it sucks. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention Isabella. She returned too, but Isabella was all wrapped up in just misgendering Tosh. That was pretty much Isabella's arc, you know. Her returning was so lackluster. I just keep thinking about like older games. I think about Mass Effect 3 when a lot of these characters returned, and they had like really good like arcs and wrapping up their story arcs and stuff like that. And literally Isabella's just there, and I'm like, well, why is she not like, she was so important in number 2. And then she's here, and then she's just completely unimportant. Her presence doesn't matter. It literally is meaningless. And I'm like, oh, cool. Appreciate it, guys. To me, it just feels like the developers just didn't care. It's weird because a lot of the lore you would only care about if you played the prior games. Like, stuff that happened and a lot of big lore that was revealed within the Veilguard, it's meaningless to you if you didn't play the prior games. It doesn't mean anything. It feels nothing. Like, if you're like, oh, Harding is stone touched, you're like, why would you care about that? You didn't experience any of, like, the stone or golem. You didn't experience anything like that. You didn't spend any time in Orzammar. You're like, why would you even care about that? Nothing. You didn't do any deep road stuff. None of that stuff would really matter to you about learning. You didn't do any of the DLC about the Titan stuff in Inquisition. Why would any of that matter to you? Or say the lore of them finding out that, like, oh, the elven gods, basically the Fade, the Blight is just bad dreams from Titans. And finding out, like, what the Fade is exactly, finding out what the elves were before, the Evanurance, or whatever the fuck, however you say that. All of that stuff, and then them finding out that, oh, our religion, like, say if you followed Andraste or whatever, like, none of that is meaningless because it was just the elves and the Titans doing some shit, essentially. None of that would make any sense to you or mean anything if you didn't know. So it's interesting that they fleshed it out. They continued the lore. They put something in there. I don't know how I felt about that exactly, because I kind of like the old story of what happened with the Blight. I think it just seemed cooler. Fine. Okay, whatever. But if you never played the prior games, none of that meant anything to you. So what I'm saying is they made the effort to do that, but then they made no effort in any other department. So, like, just the lackluster of bringing back characters or the story arcs of characters or anything like that that really mattered to us. Like, one thing that the Dragon Age in Inquisition did is they had the Dragon Age Keep, and that was actually pretty cool. So, let's say if you didn't play the games, or maybe if you just had an understanding and you wanted to switch things around with the choices that you made, you can go to the Dragon Age Keep on the website, and then you can select your choices, and then it would import that data into your game. And I thought that was pretty cool. And so they kind of did that, but just give you like 3 choices. You get 3 choices within the game that has to do with essentially the DLC of Inquisition. Like, one thing is, okay, did you romance? Did you romance? Who did you romance? So that's not related to the DLC in Inquisition, but I think that's only important if you're, I'm assuming, because I didn't play, as a female elf. I think that's only important because probably it would be mentioned, I imagine, at some point with Solus, like your Inquisition. If your Inquisitor was a female elf, it would probably be mentioned or something at some point. Maybe. That's what I'm assuming why they brought that up. And then it's just the other choices. It's like, okay, did you break up the Inquisition or did you give it to the Chantry? Or did you try to save Solus or did you want to pursue him, like you want to kill him? That's it. And those 2 other things were specifically from the DLC. I think there's a lot of people that didn't play the Dragon Age Inquisition DLC. So there's probably people that were confused why your Inquisitor didn't have a hand. That's missing a hand. Like, what the hell happened? You know, like, they didn't explain it. You had to play it in the DLC. So it's one of those things where I'm like, this is crazy. This is so stupid. Like, I don't understand this decision making at all. Oh man, this is gonna be a long one. I haven't even gotten to the characters yet. So let's talk about the characters. Yeah, you're. They're mostly just fell flat in their face, unfortunately. Whoever wrote the characters, whoever gave them the direction for the voice actors' direction, it's just mostly trash, unfortunately. Especially, I don't want to trash the voice actors. The voice actors did their thing. I think they just had bad direction. I mentioned that in my previous video, saying that even a good actor that can act their ass off could be terrible with bad direction. If they don't understand the assignment, if they were given bad notes or whatever, they're gonna be bad. Happens a lot of times. It's just an unfortunate thing that happens. You know, on my podcast, The Snark Tank, I remember criticizing one of the characters, Nev Gallus, for at the beginning of the game, the opener, where she is not convinced that Solus is some elven god or whatever. she says something like, oh, the ritual that's taking place would require multiple mages. You didn't tell me there's multiple mages involved. And then it was explained to her, no, this dude is an elven god. Like, he's super powerful, right? He's super powerful and super ancient.
This ritual's already drawing more power than I'd expect from a dozen mages. You told me he was working alone.
I also told you he was an ancient elven god.
An elven god? Well, whatever he is, he's causing trouble in my city.
And then she says something that's just kind of matter of fact. She says, an elven god. Well, whatever he is. And me, at first I was like, they just told you. What the hell's wrong with you? And then it took me, I had to see that opener again to realize she was supposed to be dismissive. She was supposed to not believe you. When she said an elven god, it was supposed to sound like, yeah, whatever, dude. So whatever he is. And it made me realize, oh, okay, they didn't understand the assignment.
An elven god.
And that was actually my biggest problem with Nev Gallus, who I really did want to like. I wanted to like Nev, but when she would speak so many times, I'm like, I don't understand what emotion you're trying to convey. Like, even at the end of her story arc where she actually yells, she lets out a yelp, she screams, she says something. And I'm like, you seem so uninterested.
The city won't miss you. Doctor won't.
This ends here. Send a message.
Dogtown needs protection.
When this is over, I will give it to them.
You won't.
Like, it was just weird. I'm like, I've never had that problem in a Bioware game before. There are some times where people have been chill the entire time. Someone like, say, Alistair, for example. Pretty chill, pretty quippy, and then there's times where he's really upset. There are some quests that you do, and he's like very upset. And I love it. I was like, oh shit, I really upset Alistair. Wow. You know, and within this game, I never felt that with any of the companions that like, oh, I really feel what they're trying to convey. Maybe Tosh, but I'll get to Tosh later because, geez, you want to talk about bad characters. Ugh. So I want to talk about Solas for a second. Solas, like I said before, he's really good. I really like Solas. I think he seems to be the only one that really understood the assignment, even probably with bad direction. So the voice actor's like, I got this. I know how Solas is. I'm gonna let me do what Solas is supposed to do, because that's what it feels like to me. I'm like, oh wow, Solas. Every scene that he did, I liked it. He's being a dickhead. He's whatever when he's being kind of like hopefully deceitful. Even towards the end, like I got the good ending because I did everything, unfortunately. And I liked his emotion. Everything about it, I was like, oh, this is good. Like, Solas is good. So it was a shame that he was not the main baddie, to where they pushed him aside and he's trapped for the vast majority of the game. He's just trapped. And then they bring out, ooh, spooky Elganon and Gillenane. And I'm like, no. And then even they were soulless, man. Like, Gillenane is like, I don't know, man. Just stock antagonist. Like, I don't know. I guess both of them were. But, like, first of all, I don't know, man. It was... if they were interesting, like maybe even like say the way that they were trying to build up, like we need leaders, we need followers, we're gods, so we need people, like we're gonna get the Venatori because they're easy, they're like cult people already, essentially. It's gonna be easy to co-opt them. We need people who crave power. If there was something that could have like made me feel like, man, I understand why they're doing this. Like it literally was just, nope, I'm an evil dickhead, and here's my evil dickhead sister or whatever. And yeah, I'm like, oh, cool. This is much better than chasing Solas all over Thetis. And Solas doing whatever he has to do to break the veil because he feels like he must do it. This is much better. Let's move on to Bellara. Bellara is just a Disney character. Just Disney, and it reflects in the score. There's a few times when she's on scene and they're doing this weird fluttery, whimsical oopsie, I'm such a klutz kind of thing. And then she never really knows how to turn it off. Her voice is just always like she's talking to a child, even when she's supposed to convey sadness, right? Because she has an arc with her brother and it's like tearing her apart. But even within that, she's just like, I'm like, can you tone it down a little bit more? Like, talk like a normal person. It's annoying that she's technically the only character that is truly important in the Veilguard. You need her. And really, she's the only one that you actually need, because anybody else could have really been like, yeah, you could have picked up other people. There could have been better people. I think the people within the Inquisition would have done a better job than the Veilguard, just to be honest. The way the people, like, everyone except for maybe Tasha, like if you wanted a Dragon Hunter, because your other Canary, unfortunately, if you played the DLC of Inquisition, you know what happened to the Iron Bull. The Iron Bull was actually, I thought it was pretty cool. Iron Bull doing a heel turn was actually really fucking cool. So it's one of those things that I'm like, damn, well, okay, if you need a Dragon Hunter, you need another, but it would have been better if we had a better one than Tosh. So Tosh's biggest problem is that Tosh acts like they're 14 years old. That's the biggest problem. And then they absolutely ruined Tosh's story arc by making it pretty much about her identity.
Ah, shit. The
fact that Tosh is like 20-something years old, didn't know, like, it took a total stranger that sucks, that's flat. Like, Rook's not even like, has like wisdom or anything, for like Tosh to figure out who they are. And I was like, this is stupid. And just like, it was cringe the whole time. Just scenes within Tosh, just, misgendering Tosh. And I'm like, and then Tosh, really though, I can't emphasize enough, the way that Tosh behaves like they're 14 is mind-boggling. The fact that you even can romance Tosh should be impossible, because I'm like, this is a stunted person. This feels wrong if you romance Tosh, because Tosh literally behaves like they're in high school trying to figure themselves out. The way Tosh lashes out like a kid. The way, you can't tell me who I am. You can't, like, just the way the screaming and like just and doing really irrational things, like, okay, we need to take out these Antam. We need to be very strategic about this, and they're just jumping down and like, and I'm like, you're an idiot. You're stupid. You're too young to be on this team. But apparently they're not. And I was just like, who thought this was a good character? It's like somebody wrote this character about themselves when they were a kid. Like, this is how I was when I was a kid. This is how I felt. And this is how I wish people behaved when they misgendered me, right? When they misgendered me, or when they didn't respect my non-binary or whatever, I wish that they did push-ups, they pulled a barb or whatever. Like, it just seems so bizarre to me that I'm like, why would anybody think this is a good character? And it sucks because Tosh is actually a good companion to have. Like, even though I'll get to the combat later, but Tosh's skill moves were pretty good. So Emmerich could have been good, but Emmerich somewhat still has a little bit of that Disney problem. Emmerich is too posh and too, it's me, Emmerich. And I'm like, why are you talking like this? Oh, Manfred. And I'm like, what? With this screeching servant skeleton, it's like a, and I'm like, okay, what the hell is this?
I encountered him as a wisp in the necropolis years ago. A simple spirit, but so curious. He refused to leave my side.
I don't mind poshness, but not in a Disney-esque way. Like, I've met a lot of British people. I've seen a lot of British media. And the only time I see Jeeves is like, it's performative. It's like, oh, look at me. I'm a gentleman. Marvel. Like, it's performative. It's not a real person. And Emmerich talks like that. And I'm like, oh, yeah, great. I definitely want to spend time with someone who's always talking like this, even in a more serious manner. Really? And I'm like, why? Stop that. It would have been much better because his story arc, you have the choice to have him turn into a lich. And I immediately did that because I was like, I'm tired of looking at his weird, blocky, like, Overwatch face. And it also got rid of Manfred, which I wouldn't have had a problem with Manfred, but it was a stupid hissing. Manfred gone. Dude's a lich now. He's all skulled out. And I was thinking, I would have much more tolerated his Disney-esque performative nature if he was a lich the entire time, because the contrast would have been hilarious. Actually, it would have been I was like, this is funny. Look at this guy that looks so frightening, but he's like, oh, look at me. Like, that would have been cool. But you literally get that at the very, very end of the game, like towards the end of the arc, where I'm like, oh, imagine if I could have done this way earlier. That would have been really cool, actually. But it triggers so far into the game that you don't truly get to enjoy Emmerich as a lich. And so that's really my big issue with him. I thought his story arc was actually fine. It was one of the better ones. Davrin is Jacob Taylor, essentially. Just there to fill a seat, I guess. Stoic black man. I don't know what happened to the original voice actor, because I remember seeing when there was behind the scenes footage years ago, it was a British guy, a British black dude, and now it's just like, the American English dialect, which there was always some issues about that, because it seemed like there was people were like, oh, I guess city elves have English accents in the Dragon Age universe, I guess. Doesn't really make sense, because really that only English American dialect was people that lived in Orzammar. And then so it didn't really make sense, but they just kind of whatever. And then it turns out that, like, the elves, the Dalish, are supposed to be more like Welsh or Irish. And they did it for political reasons, actually. That really ties into the story really well, because they're very oppressed, and you get to really experience it in Dragon Age 2. And so Davrin, whatever, so he's one of the, I guess, the city elf, fine. His arc was fine, because I actually liked Hassan the Griffin. Hassan the Griffin was like, oh, this is the closest thing that you get to your war dog in Dragon Age Origins. And Hassan played his part. It was a griffin. Like, adorable, deadly, cool. Davrin, boring. He was fine. He was fine, but that just makes him, it's like Jacob Taylor to me. I'm like, you guys made another stoic black man and didn't really give him that much identity or character. Nothing to him, really, but I didn't expect much in this game. Harding was fine. Harding was fine. Harding was the one that I romanced, because I'm like, well, I didn't get to smash Harding Inquisition. I wanted my Inquisitor to smash Harding, but I'm like, at least Rook can get a piece of it or something like that. But damn, man, I'll talk about the romance stuff later, because that shit sucked. Like, you put in all this time and you're like, the payoff is, oh, it's bad. But I'll get into that in a minute. I want to talk about Lucanis. Lucanis probably would have been my favorite character, but I thought his main arc was going to be about maybe finding out an impossible way to separate a demon from a person in a way that doesn't really kill them, or that doesn't sacrifice somebody else, because we explored this in Dragon Age Origins. When a person gets possessed by a demon, pretty much the only way to separate them is going to kill the person. It's going to kill someone. Something has to be involved. A sacrifice essentially has to be involved. And I was hoping that they were going to figure out a way. And the thing is, if you didn't play the prior games, you wouldn't know that at all, right? So you might even be thinking, like, why aren't we trying to help this guy get rid of his demon? Well, why do you have to die? Like, if you didn't play the games, you didn't know. They didn't do anything exploring this. They didn't truly explore this, or just give an example or anything that would give somebody who was kind of ignorant or even forgot about the old games to understand how truly difficult it is to do anything without killing Lucanis. So Lucanis has a spite demon, and that gives him a lot of his power, right? That's what made him such a dangerous assassin. And it's one of those things that I'm like, imagine, like, say Mass Effect 3, curing the genophage. If you play Mass Effect 3, you know what that is. Something that just sounded impossible, but then, against all odds, you got it done. You got it done because you needed to unite the galaxy. Shepard getting things done against all odds was dope. I thought this would have been really cool for them to figure out a way, somehow, even if, like, say, he gets separated from the spite demon, now he's not as powerful, and if he gets killed, that would have been a cool story arc where it's like, at least he knows peace or something. I don't know, man. His was just like, well, revenge. And I'm like, okay, cool. Great. I hear somebody who I liked the voice actor. I mean, anyone who's just a Spanish, like European Spanish like a Antonio Banderas type of thing. I just always love that accent. They always sound good to me. That just might be some weird bias because I just love how it sounds. So maybe I'm blinded by that. Maybe someone who's actually Spanish can be like, oh, this guy sucks. But for me, he sounded good. I think he had a lot of potential, and they dropped the ball. So let's talk about the plot. I know I mentioned the plot a little bit already, but like I just want to really dive into it because of how disappointing it was and how it could have been much better, right? You're Rook. We need to stop Solus. We stop Solus's ritual, and then 2 other baddies come out that no one cared about, and then now you just got to stop them. That's the plot. And one thing that sucks so badly about this game is that Dragon Age was a game of politics in every corner of it. There are so many important things that needed to be done to get people to come together, to get this to happen, for this to happen, in order for it's like, okay, the Blight is coming. We need everybody to work together. It's the only way we're going to defeat the Blight. There's a lot of stuff that needs to get sorted out throughout Ferelden in order for it to happen. Cool. Dragon Age 2, I mean, Kirkwall, you got to sort out the politics of Kirkwall, of the free marches. Cool. Inquisition, the Inquisitor, like that is being an Inquisition on its own is just politics. And then just happened to do a lot of diplomacy, doing a lot of things with Orlais. There's like a lot to this, man. And I was like, great. I still enjoyed it for what it was. This game, there's like one thing towards the end, and you shouldn't even have anything to do with it. You're going to help choose the new Archon of Deventer. And I'm like, why the hell would this guy have anything to do with that decision? Like, he doesn't have any authority or anything. Like, the Inquisition, you at least being the Inquisitor in Inquisition, right? In Dragon Age Inquisition, at least it made sense that he has some authority and some type of political pull, especially if you were like, if you're a human, you're from a royal family, like you had some political pull. It made sense. This, you're just some outcast from somewhere, wherever faction you came from. And then all of a sudden you're making an incredibly important decision like this. And it's like, why does anybody even respect you? Really, truly. You're not even bringing people together, truly. There's just these little factions. Oh, the Veil Jumpers. Oh, we're the Strato Dragons. We're, the Antivan Crows and stuff. I'm like, okay, yeah, cool. But the world is in danger. What about the larger things? Why are we not talking to nobles, kings? Why are we not getting things done? Like, we need the world to come together. Why is it that there are multiple archdemons in northern Thedas, and then the Inquisitor's like, I'm gonna just stay down here. I'm gonna stay down in Ferelden. You're like, what do you mean? Or what about your hero of Ferelden, the champion of Kirkwall? Guys, Solus is up here. There's archdemons here. I understand the Blight is spreading everywhere, but there's enough people that can probably keep those parts of the Blight at bay and then deal with what's causing the Blight. Huh? Maybe? No? We're not going to be doing anything like that? We're not even going to return to... No, we're not going to do that? Oh, okay. That's cool, I guess. Yeah, that's awesome. Makes a lot of sense. This absolutely world-ending, like literally world-ending veil being broken down is just going to cause chaos. It's going to absolutely cause chaos. And it's like, I'm going to stay down here. Oh, at the last second, I'm going to show up. Oh, last second, yeah. Okay. I'm like, where were you before, asshole? Come on. Where is everybody else? Do you guys remember Mass Effect 3? The final push when it's time to take out the Reapers? The whole galaxy is united. Like, if they don't do this, they're done. Where is everybody? Thedas is cooked. The world is cooked. If they don't do this, where is everyone? Stupid. Just absolutely moronic. Just so dumb. One thing that really annoyed me was the reveal later on that, oh, Varric, he's been dead the entire time. And I'm like, what? That's weird. It's weird because, yeah, it makes sense that he's dead, because I was like, why didn't that super ultra Lyrian-filled MacGuffin dagger not kill Varric? That makes no sense. right? Like I was thinking maybe, oh, it turns out Varric is more powerful than we thought. Maybe he's something different. I was more in that direction. But then, he just stayed there on the bed the entire time, stayed in the lighthouse where where your companions all are. And it turns out, he's dead. He was a figment of your imagination. There was only a couple of things that alluded to it, but not really, not good enough. Like, really, the only thing that revealed it beforehand was when you're talking to Solus, and then Varric just knew what you guys said already. And then that was it. But, like, that's like in hindsight kind of a thing. They didn't do a good job concealing it because, or they did too good of a job because they made it too believable that it was actually there. It was something that was annoying to where, like, you kind of have to make the decision to where at a certain point you have to make it kind of obvious, but do your best to conceal it. And I feel like they went too much in the other direction to conceal it to where it's like, all right, so Varric was actually dead, and Nev and Harding couldn't care less. I mean, literally, like, it was especially Harding. Harding spent a ton of time with Varric, multiple years, and her reaction was, oh, Varric paid the ultimate price, in a very just matter-of-fact way. Or she didn't say ultimate, but like Varric paid the price or something like that. Something like that. They just very vague language that would kind of make you think, oh, he died, but no emotion. Completely unbelievable that Varric died, and these people barely gave a shit. No one said anything that would alluded to like, oh man, dude, Varric, what a great guy. I'm really gonna miss him. Nothing. So I'm like, what? So, and able to trick you into thinking he's alive, they had to act like these people couldn't give a shit about Varric. That's what annoyed me. So one thing I want to touch on is that a lot of people were saying that reviewed the game that the ending is really good. They're like, oh man, the last few hours of the game are really cool. Like this, and I was like, okay, I'm interested to see what happens. And look, I understand what they're saying because it is pretty cool, but at the same time, not as cool as I thought it was going to be because it essentially is just Mass Effect 2. And it hit me, I was like, oh, this game is Mass Effect 2. Like, it's just, most of the game is grabbing your stupid companions, doing their dumb loyalty missions, I guess, like making sure they're not distracted for the final battle. And then you have a lengthy thing that plays out in a way that, will these people survive? Only if you did your due diligence beforehand. Building up the factions, doing the loyalty missions where they're all labeled heroes, and then they'll survive the encounter. Maybe like one person because somebody has to be sacrificed or something, at least in my playthrough. Not everybody survived, but like everyone but one person, right? Davrin sacrificed himself. And it really annoyed me that the Griffin Hassan just killed itself. Davrin, like, gets stabbed or whatever, falls, and then the Griffin just dives in after it and then never comes back. And I'm like, oh, okay. Why did he kill himself? But, like, the sequences were all cool and stuff, but one of the things, it had the problem of, like, if you played God of War Ragnarok, when actual Ragnarok is happening, the coolest stuff has nothing to do with the characters you're controlling. Kratos and Atreus are working their way through the battlefield, and you're just doing cookie cutter shit that you've always done. Except for Atreus gets to turn into a bear at one point or something, and you just slapping the shit out of things. But, like, there's the serpent in the background. Thor, all this cool shit's happening and has nothing to do with you. And I'm like, damn, look, I want to be over there. And I had that same problem with the Veilguard at the very end, where there's this crazy giant that's never been in the game before. And then you just watch a cutscene of, like, veil jumpers and then Tosh taking it out. And I'm like, I want to fight that thing. Like, I want to fight that giant thing. Why would I just want to watch this thing that's never been in the game before and then I get to do nothing with it? And then the same thing, here's the new big archdemon, and then I'm watching Solus turn into the Dreadwolf and just battling it. And I'm like, yeah, it's cool, but I'm not doing anything with it. I want to fight the Archdemon. It would have been cool to fight the Dreadwolf. How cool would that have been? Well, maybe you do. I don't know. Maybe there is a thing. Maybe there's an extra scene. Maybe there's an extra fight, but I did all the right things. I did all the side stuff in the Fade. I did all the things I needed to do, so maybe I got an ending. Maybe I missed a fight because of it. I know I could have talked my way out of fighting Mythal, but I'm like, I want to fight Mythal. And then it was, you fought a really tanky dragon. And I will say, it was a little disappointing that there wasn't that many dragons in Dragon Age. Like, say, in Inquisition, for example, I think there's 20 side dragons. 20. If I remember correctly, it's 20. And if I remember correctly, I missed 3 of them. I think I took out like 17 of them. I was like, fuck, where's the other 3? Huge map. A lot of cool dragon fights. And as many dragons as there are, they aren't all exactly the same, which I thought was pretty cool too. A lot of them will have some similar mechanics, but with there being so little dragons in the Veilguard, I think there was like 6 or 7 or something like that. There was like, I think half of them have the same movesets, essentially. Maybe different elements. Or I'm like, I know exactly how to beat this thing. I already beat it. It was like when I fought the Mythal dragon. I'm like, I know its moveset. It's just really tanky. So you kind of have that thing where it's like a watered down Mass Effect 2. You had your suicide mission at the end. Less engaging, didn't feel as good as I wanted it to be. And it looked good, though. It looked really good. And I will say, if this game was compelling and everything around it and everything leading up to it was good, then I would feel compelled to, I want to play from this angle. What happens if I don't do anybody's loyalty missions like I would do in Mass Effect 2? Because the journey is fantastic, so I don't mind doing all this stuff over again, or having a certain save state and starting from there, but I'm like, I couldn't be bothered. A lot of these, even like the main quests, are okay. Like, a lot of sometimes just feels like dick teases. Like, oh, I'm gonna fight one of these archdemons, and then you whoop its ass for a few minutes, and then it flies away. Oh, look it, man, I'm gonna fight what? Algernon? I don't remember which one's which anymore. The weird, squiggly female one. And you injure her, and then, nope, here comes Big Baddie. Freezes time, could literally kill everybody, and then he just escapes. I'm like, why didn't he kill us? Oh, I think he knew better. I'm like, yeah, it certainly wasn't extending the plot. It wasn't us having plot armor. He just knew better when he literally could have just killed everyone right there. Oh, you're gonna infiltrate the Venatori cult place, even though you guys don't have mask on. Oh, there's the archdemon there. I'm just gonna do some weird illusion thing to you. Ooh, I'm gonna do an illusion thing, and instead of just killing you, it's like, okay, all right. I understand you need to extend the game, but you can at least make it a little more believable. And see, the thing is, it would have been infinitely much more believable if it was you just chasing Solus, because I feel like the idea would be like, Solus doesn't want to kill you. He will if he has to, but so he seems like the type of person that would slow time and spare you and then go about his business, or do things and confuse you or try to trap you or whatever. He would be doing all of this stuff, right? And not just downright trying to crush you. The way that it seems like Argon, whatever the fuck, like that guy, the big baddie dude, the way that he's been portrayed is that he's a tyrant and he'll crush his enemies if you don't obey, but then he doesn't. And I was like, oh, sick. I love the consistency. Yeah, I think at this point, I think you're probably completely understanding like how frustrating this game has been. The last few things I want to focus on are just the lack of RPG mechanics, because at the end of the day, besides the story and the compelling characters, this is supposed to be a role-playing game. I want to role-play, and I want some traditional RPG mechanics. So one thing that people really like in the Dragon Age and BioWare games is the romance options. BioWare has been one of those companies that have been able to get a lot of women to sign onto their games because of that. Lengthy dialogue, compelling characters, and stories, and then love interests. things that a lot of people enjoy, but women like this stuff particularly. That's why, like, rom-coms or just like any romantic movies, or even in those romance novels and stuff like that, that's like mostly female dominated media. And so they captured a lot of those people, and it would be really cool to like share that. Even if you had like a significant other, you guys would kind of like share, oh man, I romance this person, I romance this person. And it was just like, it would be a fun time seeing a lot of people even play these games together. Just like, even if they're trading off or one person just watching a person and they're making decisions together. There's Mass Effect, Dragon Age, Knights of the Old Republic. A lot of these games were bonding experiences, and it's not in this game at all. It's so shallow. Everything in this is so shallow. The love interest is so shallow. Holy crap, there's not even anything intertwining. There's even no real conflict. One thing that they've done pretty well in these games before is that there would be acknowledgement. If you were flirting with other characters before, and then you started flirting with another one, and if you're maybe trying to start a romantic relationship with one of them, they will acknowledge, like, what about this person? Or something. And then the other person might even acknowledge that you're no longer interested, and they might be a little bit more closed off towards you or something like that. There might be some dialogue that's not even available to you anymore. Like, there was so many mechanics interwoven together, and this is completely not there. And one thing that sucks is that if you really want to pursue somebody, it's so early in the game, you have to be kind of exclusive with somebody. So you can't really take everybody to their furthest points until you have to like make the decision where to romance them or break it off of like, I'm not interested with you. And that happens pretty early on from my experience when I was talking to Harding, when I was talking to Tosh. Tosh, it happens almost immediately. And you're like, okay, what the hell? Like, Tosh almost seems like was like immediately wanted to smash, and I'm like, oh, okay, so this person, like I said, this person just seems like a dumb teenager, just making rash and stupid decisions, because that's what a lot of teenagers do. And then they'll be like, oh my god, what was I thinking? I'm an idiot. It's like, yes, you're young, of course you are. But like, Harding is like, oh man, I'm not that far in the game. I kind of wanted to see what was going on with Nev, but I'm like, I'm just going to go with Harding. And then you have to do so much. It took so much to where I'm like, finally, there's a romance scene. And with the romance scenes, holy shit, they suck. I didn't see all of them. I didn't look at all of them because I just didn't care. But like the Harding one that I experienced, I'm like, oh, yeah, nothing essentially. Just there, you kiss, and then you're just sitting there and you guys are talking, I guess. I saw the Tosh one was a little bit more, but again, I saw it because I watched, I think, the Angry Joe review. I never would have seen it before because I was just not completely uninterested. Like I said, Tosh is huge, but acts this mentality of a child. Like, no thanks, man. no, thank you. I didn't see anybody else's, but I can't imagine anybody else's was much better. This game, obviously, even though there's some blood in the game, not really mature. There's no real nudity. You might see a little bit of cheeks. That's about it. And it's like, I don't necessarily need nudity. It's like, say, I romanced Tali Zora, right, in Mass Effect 2, and then I continued our romance in 3. But like, say, even in the scene, you don't get to see anything of Tali. You don't get to see anything of her at all. So it's not about the nudity, but it's nice when it's there in other companions where it's like, just seems realistic. And in Inquisition, there was plenty of it. I mean, in number 2, the scenes were actually really good too. Like they fleshed these things out. Again, Inquisition, I think they did a really good job. I think a lot of the romance options and a lot of the sex scenes were really good. And this game is just, it's such a far cry. It's completely gone. It's sad.
Sorry to disturb your rest, Inquisitor, but our oh, sweet maker.
Cullen, how's it going?
Is the Inquisitor awake? I thought perhaps we... Oh.
Can I help either of you with something?
I'm so sorry.
I cannot move my legs.
Is something the matter? Ah!
Oh, for fuck's sake.
Do you see this?
No.
So, I take it...
Actually, she's the one who's been taking it.
So I talked about the combat a little bit and said that it was pretty fun. I enjoyed it for what it was. I started off being a fighter, right? So the warrior sword and shield, and then you had your secondary weapon, which was a two-hander, and it was pretty fun. And you have a projectile, like your shield, and a lot of active skills and some rage meters. And I was like, okay, there's a lot of stuff to go here. Okay, cool. Like, I thought it was pretty interesting though that I thought I had too much stuff. Like as a fighter, I was like, I can do everything. Projectiles. They brought back the harpoon hook thing to like bring things closer, which I thought was pretty cool. The cooldown was way too long. I didn't understand that because I'm like, well, I can only use this once every like fucking a minute and something. Anyway, but I thought I could do too much. I can even do massive AoE damage. And I was like, well, what's the point of like having a mage on my team? I can literally handle all these people myself. And that's kind of how the game was designed, because you can't interchange your companions, which is a staple of the Dragon Age series. You bring 3 people with you, so there's 4 people on your team, and you can switch in between them. And so you really get to play with everything. So even if you picked one class, you know that you're still going to be able to enjoy other classes. That is not how they did this. And the thing that's really annoying, some people like Tosh has a different move set than anybody else. I can't dual wield as a fighter. And I was like, oh, I would love to dual wield like 2 big axes like Tosh is doing. Nope. Okay, well, at least maybe I can play Tosh. Nope. So you're just like, oh, I just get to watch Tosh do things. Well, I get to watch Lucanis do this really cool demon stuff, and I can't actually do it. Essentially, your companions become active skills, and that's it. They're just doing things. They're like passively doing things, and then you just activate their skills, and then they go on cooldown, and that's it. You can direct them to do stuff. And so essentially, like I said, it's like Mass Effect 2, because that's what Mass Effect 2 is. You can direct them to do things. They even took the primer and detonation things in Mass Effect 2. They even took that. Like, it feels much more satisfying in Mass Effect, especially in Mass Effect 3. Super satisfying to have ice person explode, or have someone combust with fire and explode. Get other people on fire. It felt more satisfying than in this game. But they essentially just took that, like, oh, direct these people to attack these people. The interesting thing in Mass Effect, like, you can direct people where to stand too, though. So that was an interesting thing that maybe they should put that in here. The interesting thing, or not even interesting, stupid, I should have said, your companions can't die. That's why I said they're like active skills. They can't even die. There's no real stakes. Like for them, it's really, if you're having a hard time, if you're getting hit a lot or something like that, you can really just kind of like recover, make sure you bring a healer with you, you have some potions, you'll be fine. Like, I didn't have any struggle in the game, not really. The most struggle was like just getting a little bit bored at fighting like some of the side bosses in the Fade or whatever, when you're doing the illuminating traversing thing. And I was like, oh man, this boss, these guys that are sitting in their chairs are super spongy. The fights are kind of alright, but I'm fighting them at way too low of a level, and this is taking forever now, which is making me get sloppy. At one point, I was thinking this was like baby's first RPG, but I'm like, that's stupid. When I was a kid, we were playing Final Fantasy. We were playing Chrono Trigger, then Chrono Cross. We were playing the 3D Final Fantasies. I was playing Legend of Dragoon. I was playing Vagrant Story. I was playing so many things. We were already playing freaking tactical games. We were playing Diablo. We were playing things that were like intricate and took skill, and you had to think. I played a game Black and White that my brother introduced me to. I thought it was pretty cool. I didn't play it that much, but I was like, oh, that's a pretty cool concept. People played Fable, like people were playing things that were just much more endearing and much more fleshed out. I feel like everybody's played Skyrim at this point. Just the crafting mechanics. There's so much things you could do. There are some basic things, but like it was like, okay, within the world of Bethesda, within their world of Tamriel, okay, fine, but we expected more. We expected more with Dragon Age. We expected more from Thetis. We expected more from all the companions that we built throughout the games, and I'm like, oh, I've said it before that Alistair was essentially Garrus, in Mass Effect, and then he's just nowhere to be found. I think he makes a cameo in 2, and then he's just nowhere to be found again. Or I'm like, oh, one of the coolest characters, one of the most interesting characters that you guys made, just doesn't show up at all. One of the most important characters and one of the most interesting characters, the one that I definitely romanced, and Inquisition, Cassandra, nothing. Nothing at all. Sucks, man. Sucks. If I were to give this game anything out of 10, honestly, 3. 3 out of 10. Like, just, I would say, honestly, if the environments didn't look good, 1. You know what I'm saying? Like, 1. Like, damn, if this game had 0 ties to Dragon Age, I would be like, this feels like a nice, like, AA indie studio game. I enjoy this for what it was. Like, when I played Greedfall, I enjoyed Greedfall for what it was. I really enjoyed that game. Right now, number 2 is in early access. The reviews are looking a little iffy, but I'm like, whatever. I'll wait. But I really enjoyed Greedfall for what it was. Not the best RPG I've ever played, but what it was, the Spider Studio kind of did a really good job. And I feel like if it was Spiders doing this, had its own story, and did things relatively the same, they're even kind of copying Mass Effect 2's their plot and just how everything went forward, I'd be like, this was really fun. I would probably give it like a 7 or 8. But like, this is AAA? This is Dragon Age? What the fuck, man? Whatever, man. That's it. I've mourned it. I'm not looking forward to any other. I'm just not looking forward to anything else in this universe, unfortunately. I don't know if BioWare is completely dead yet. I think a lot of people have already said yes. I'm gonna wait for Mass Effect 4. I'm gonna wait for it. You hear it in my voice that I'm not excited, but that's their last chance for me. But anyway, if you're new, subscribe. I'm gonna try using the channel a teeny bit more, not regularly. It's just not gonna happen. I'm super busy with the podcast. Just subscribe to the Snark Tank too. If you haven't listened to the podcast, I mean, there's so many people that have no idea that Chris Reagan, Chris Reagan, and Tom Sweeney do a podcast. So you want to check that out too. All right, thanks guys, appreciate you.